The Canticle of the Creatures is a special poem and a song that St. Francis had created at the end of his life. He just loved nature so much. I mean, he lived most of his life out in nature. So he ended up just pouring forth his love for God and his gratitude to God for all the goodness that he saw around him. And he could see God in every creature. Even in the midst of his suffering, he was able to sing this song. It was chosen, I think, for this facility, not only because it represents the Franciscan approach to the love of nature, the love of creation, but also because we use nature, we use the created beings to help bring about healing. And so it just fits right into the healing ministry. I made small, about this size, little watercolors. Then I just worked with what was suggested by the prayer of St. Francis, starting with the sun and then the moon and stars, working through fire and water. They created the whole panel, and then they cut apart sections of the glass to be boxed and shipped. He just, put them in with tacky adhesive that helps it to be set in the wall, and then they would put in the grout that would go in between the pieces of glass. This particular hymn is a part of my background from the time I was very young. So as I was working with it, I wanted it to be somewhat abstract and yet be able to convey the joyfulness of the song and the idea of the reverence that Francis had for all of creation. It's not just me, but once you create something, and I think parents know that with their children, it's like once you create this person or this work of art, it takes on a life of its own, and so even now when I was working with the images, the little watercolor images, and creating a little handout with the prayer of St. Francis, it was like, oh, these really speak to me, so it kind of enhances my spirituality. Well, my hope is that when they go into the chapel, that they would be drawn to perhaps one particular image, and that they would feel a sense of peace and serenity, but also feel the call to go deeper into their relationship with God. I particularly love the one for Sister Water, where it's raining and they cut the glass in long, narrow strips, and you just get that feel of the rain coming down. The people who come here who really perhaps don't know much about St. Francis would experience the spirit of St. Francis by entering into the chapel and by being, absorbing from the presence of the images something of the spirit that is always with us, and that the idea that nature is a part of us and we experience it all the time. And so those who come into the Life Center would experience God's presence in their lives through nature, as well as through the relationships that they have with the people here who are working to help them.
If I read this here, I get a good understanding of, of what my life, could be like, and it would have a positive impact on my life.
I know the participants really enjoy the chapel and get a lot out of it and are very excited about our spiritual care program, but for them to be able to hear in detail the meaning of each of those mosaics, I think adds to what our program's always already about.
Everything that happens to us, even sometimes the hard things that happen, God is with us in that. And God will help us through that. I know you could probably tell me way more than I know, from your own life experience.
Yeah.
So everything, God is with you in everything. Okay? And may you have a wonderful day. And thank you for being such a great. Thank you.